Hang on, we're about to raise a little bit of Hellion. Find out what's going on as I hereby invite everyone to join me on my adventure through Marvel Snap. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. Today we continue our trip through the extra cards that came out this month. This time around we're talking about Hellion. Hellion was born in Los Angeles, California to parents who had managed to work their way out of poverty and become billionaires. He had always been the black sheep of his family, and when his abilities surfaced, his parents did not reject him, and only advised him that he should keep them hidden. He insisted on using these powers in public, and then was sent to the Institute in hopes that he would learn how to use his powers with any kind of discretion. He, however, quickly adopted a bad attitude of superiority while training that annoyed most of his classmates. Hellion became a quick favorite of the headmistress Emma Frost, who could see in him a great potential for heroism. When the other instructors divided their students into smaller groups, the Hellion squad was led by this telekinetic who had already learned to employ his genetic mutations in a variety of innovative ways. Although he had difficulty using his telekinetic abilities when it came to lifting small objects such as a paperclip, he had a huge amount of potential when it came to unleashing his raw power, when it came to destroying an entire fort or city. Hellion managed to avoid capture and execution for years as the mutant population was being hunted because of his money. He lived underground in shelters and had many narrow escapes from the authorities. While surviving for years on his own, he was recruited into the Mutant Resistance, an underground movement inspired by the heroism of groups like the X-Men. As part of the Resistance movement, he put his skills to use for his fellow mutants. He now throws everything he has and fights with more ferocity than ever to make a difference. Hellion has an enormous ego, but he is also the best friend that anyone could hope to have. He has a heart of gold, and he is fearless, a trailblazer, and a master of movement, a street-smart thinker, and a reality-focused problem solver. He possesses a talent for leadership, but is hard-pressed to stay out of trouble, and can be bitter and uncontrollable at times. He is ambitious, arrogant, adaptable, and driven to succeed. He has no need for personal gain or vanity and takes pride in accepting help from no one without making sure that they get paid. Hellion is an unusually strong telekinetic, but in contrast to others that possess this extremely powerful telekinesis, he tends to focus and challenge his telekinetic energy almost exclusively through his hands. He is able to reach a flight speed of 7 times the speed of sound, create force fields, unleash powerful blasts of force, create force contracts such as platforms to lift people, as well as lift tons with only his mind. He can control matter at a molecular level, levitate and manipulate objects or people to move or control them. Hellion is a powerful telekinetic that uses his skills for his fellow teammates and can manipulate people to move them. This is represented in Marvel Snap as he can manipulate his fellow teammates to move to his location next turn. So Marvel Snap, what this character does is it's a 5 cost, 8 power with the description of on reveal. The next turn after this is revealed, you can move any cards from any locations that are yours to the Hellion location. After that turn, you can't do it again, just on that turn. So all in all, I feel this is about a 2-star card. Let me go over some of the reasons why I came up with that thought. First and foremost, we gotta talk about the card that comes closest to him, which is, of course, is the Cloak. If you were to take Cloak and you were to double his power and double his cost, you'd end up with about a 4/8. This is one more than that, but it also gives you the ability where your opponent can't move into that. One of the great things that you can do about that is you can load up a location with bad stuff, clogged stuff like Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, rocks, and everything else. Have your opponent not have much in there, and then just move one card or two cards into that location and change it around. Also, just on Cloak itself, on the actual card that you have, of the Hellion, it's basically a 5/8, which is basically Sandman's power and spike, which all in all for 5 isn't the greatest in the world, but isn't the worst in the world if you actually go through a lot of the 5 costs. Now the problem that you kind of got to look at is when you go to the same cost of 5 and you go with 1 power less with the Legion, you get the power of having location manipulation by only losing 1 point. And you know what you're going to lose. Another problem that you got to watch out for is the fact that since this is on reveal, it will be powerless against any Cosmo or Cosmo-like. Also, because of how it works, you cannot play Legion into locations where it doesn't make sense. So if a location is stormed out, or if it's a location where Legion couldn't be played normally, you can't play Legion there and have people move there next turn. So, while other cards could change the location, this doesn't change the location. Location is still exactly the same, so you don't get the ability of that location manipulation. One of the interesting things that you can play with it is you can basically use any kind of move cards, but especially using cards like Vulture. If you put this down on 5, you could move Vulture into the location and then play the Heimdall to move it back out of the location, which even on just playing the Vulture gets that plus 12, which gives the Vulture a 315 stat line. And that's kind of how you gotta kind of view it, is with being a Heimdall that kind of lets you do more than Heimdall does, since Heimdall only goes to one location. The problem with it, thinking of it as a Heimdall, is Heimdall a lot of times will push over all your lanes, and this will only move cards into the lane where the Hellion is, and sometimes that's not what you're looking for. It's kind of the same reason that Fan Fei never worked. If you look at Fan Fei is 1 less power, 1 less cost. Yes, it's an activate instead of an on-reveal, which is kind of a blessing-curse kind of thing. But no one's ever used Fan Fei as far as I know, even for strong move decks. And this would basically be the same almost idea as playing Fan Fei and being able to activate her. The only thing that'd be kind of different is that you could move stuff into a lane instead of out of a lane. Another thing that you got to be interested in about and got to be careful about is the fact that just on turn 5, you're looking for your big bads in your Marvel Snap deck. Turn 5 is when you're playing your MODOK, that's when you're playing your Iron Man, that's when you're playing your cards that are meant to win you locations, set up for the spike turn, is usually what the 5 turn is. And unfortunately, the Hellion isn't really heading up for a spike to a certain degree. It's kind of pushing your advantage. And when you've got cards like Agamotto and you've got cards like Thanos, which are coming down on turn 5 a lot of times, even with no extra help. And they're coming down as 12, they're coming down as 13s. It's really hard to justify a 5/8 over a 5/13. Part of the problem is right now, as it exists, Move does not have too many good cards. that can just take advantage from moving once. Even Vulture, if you move it once, it becomes a 3/9, and that's good. I mean, it's probably one of the highest stat lines. But do you want to throw away 2 cards in your deck to get 1 3/9? The 5/8 isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's not the best thing in the world. And at this particular point, there's nothing move enough that you would really sit there and say, yes, I want to play this one move card. And if you were to try to come up with a 2 move card package, or that ever exists, then maybe you could come up and use the actual Hellion. Or if there's ever a particular location that you want to play into that makes sense for you, you can shift everything over to that location. But that's to say this is a location manipulation card is kind of a stretch on this card, because I can't think of a single location where the Hellion's gonna let you get in there where a normal cloak might not let you get in there. There's a few, but they're few and far between. Like, if you have the one that's a 2/3 and a, what is that, 1, 2, and 3 can't be played here, and Hellion can be played there, but then the reverse happens if you have the one that says 4, 5s, and 6s can't play here. So I'm not sure there's a ton of extra locations that Hellion would let you get into that Cloak wouldn't let you get into. The bonus of being able to get into some of those weird locations is just you're going to be able to get there without your opponent getting in there. So if you're talking something like a Death's Domain or an Altar of Death, then yes, you can put the Power Spike there and your opponent can't. All in all, I think it's a generally good card. But I think it has a very limited space where it exists right now. Okay, before I let you go, just a quick reminder again. In case anybody didn't watch yesterday, the Marvel Snap company has taken over their web development. It is completely handled by Marvel Snap now. And if you haven't yet, please go to their website, go to the redemption code, put in the phrase web launch, all uppercase, and yes, it is case sensitive, and you'll pick up 1 premium mystery variant and 1 premium mystery border. This will only last until the next season starts, so please take advantage of it while it's there. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.